is Friday. It is May 8th. Nothing beats a Friday. Welcome back to Virtual Math. Thank you guys for watching. Still in the man cave. And before you even say it, because I know you're thinking it, Mr. Huber, didn't you wear that jersey before? I did not. This is my second Colts jersey. The first time I wore, I think it was my Darius Leonard jersey. This is number 13. T.Y. Hilton. Go back and check the tape if you don't believe me. Rocking a different jersey every day until sports comes back. So your Fan 5 quiz is today. Hopefully you feel prepared. Hopefully you've picked up some strategies along the way from watching these videos. And honestly, practice just makes perfect. I think it's pretty common. The more you do something, the better at it you get. Now, before we start number one, if you were one of those early birds who was trying to get the worm yesterday, you will have noticed that you got an answer for number one that was not up there. That was completely my fault. And by the time I fixed it, I probably had 10 or 12 people already in my class who had done it. It might have been the same in your classroom. But I let my people know I didn't count it against you. I just gave you an extra point because that was my mistake. But that right there is a perfect example of why I always tell my kids, you have got to read these questions carefully, because I clearly didn't. I had done some math where I might have gone over it the same way a couple days ago, but I didn't take the time to read it super carefully. So if you did number one and you didn't see your answer, it was okay to panic on that one because your answer was actually not up there. So if you completed it early before I had fixed it, don't worry about that one. And you'll probably see when I go over the question that you're going to have gotten the same answer that I got or that I'm going to get when I'm going over it. So no stress on that one. Hopefully it didn't cause you too much trouble. But we're going to go ahead and get going here with number one. All right, number one says there are 2 oak trees in the backyard. Tree 1 has lost 4/10 of its leaves, and tree 2 has lost 24/100 of its leaves. What fraction of leaves have the tree lost in all? So the words that I clearly missed were in all, because we know when we see in all, we're going to do some sort of addition here. So when I bring up my whiteboard, I'll go ahead and write out our fractions. We had tree 1 with 4/10 plus 24/100. So that's supposed to be 100. This is broken record time. Same thing over and over and over again. Guys, we cannot add these together because the denominators are different. And if I look at 24/100, I can't change that to tenths because I can take a 0 from the bottom but not from the top. So instead, I'll just use my backup plan, my other option, 4/10. I can change that to hundreds because all I got to do is add zeros to my numerator and my denominator. So boom, boom. Then it's just straight up addition. You know the denominator's not going to change. And then when you go 40 plus 24, you get 64/100, which again was not an answer choice when some of you took it, but it would have been B as the correct answer. So if you got that fraction, you should feel good knowing, hey, I did the work right, but if it wasn't a choice, that was out of your control. There's nothing you can do about that one. So that one would have been 64/100. And that one's been pretty good all week in my classroom, as it probably should be. All right. Moving on to number 2, I've tried to make these numbers a little bit more uncomfortable for people. Maybe numbers you're not used to multiplying in your head, maybe facts you don't have memorized, but it's still good to get that practice to stack them and do the work. It says Mrs. Mitchell has 17 boxes of crayons in her classroom. In each box, 2/5 of the crayons are broken. What fraction of the boxes of crayons are broken? So again, 2/5 here, 2/5 here, 2/5 here, 2/5 here, all the way down for 17 boxes. That repeated addition would be a little bit easier for us to do as multiplication. So we'll go 17 times 2/5. And again, we really only need to know or deal with 2 numbers here because we're going whole number times numerator. And the denominator is not going to change. It's going to stay as a 5. Now I just got to do 17 times 2. And what I mean by making this more uncomfortable is you may have to do a little bit more math because you might not be able to do that mentally. Or some people might just want to go 17 plus 17. Doesn't matter. But we'll stack them. 2 times 7 is 14. So 4 stays and 1 goes. Then going across, 2 times 1 is 2. Plus 1 is 3. And that gives us 34/5, which is not an answer choice. And the mental checklist would tell me to change that to a mixed number because it's an improper fraction. So fraction bar means divided by. I'm going 34 divided by 5. And when you're dividing by 5, this one you may not even have to do the long division on. I think everybody's probably really comfortable with their 5. So 5 times what would get me close to that? And as close as I can get to 34 would be 30 if I did 5 times 6. So it goes into 34 6 whole times. Again, 5 times 6 got me to 30. I need to get to 34. Whatever my remainder is becomes my numerator. And the difference there would be 4. I'd have a remainder of 4, which is now my numerator. And again, denominator does not change. So doing that math, I'd get 64 4/5, which would be, or I'm sorry, not 64, 6 4/5, which would give me an answer of B. A little bit of a warning here. And if you're watching this, you're going to have an advantage over people who did not. You may have to simplify your answer on your quiz today. Hint, hint, wink, wink. All right, moving right along into number 3. This is the one that I've told you if you don't read, you're going to miss it. I've been switching it back and forth. I switched it on Thursdays. I switched it yesterday. So it says Kayla, Amanda, and Tammy are each eating identical sized pizzas. Kayla has eaten 1/4 of her pizza. Amanda has eaten 2/3 of her pizza, and Tammy has had 3/4 of her pizza. Who has the most pizza left to eat? Not who ate the most, who has the most left to eat. So we've got to use the fractions that it gave us to figure out what's left, because those numbers don't represent what's left, it's what they ate. So if Kayla ate, what did it say, 1/4? It would help if I wrote that down. Yes. So if Kayla ate 1/4, that means she has 3/4 left. If Amanda ate 2/3, that means she has 1/3 left. And if Tammy ate 3/4, that means she has 1/4 left. Now, when we talked about benchmark fractions in class, this was before we got out for this virtual learning, you can kind of use those fractions and say, hey, this one is less than half, this one's less than half, and this one's more than half. So clearly one of these is greater than the others. Like when I look at Kayla's total, 3/4, that's more than half of her pizza. But Amanda and Tammy have to eat less than half. So I could do it that way, but just for sake of how I've been doing it, I'll cross multiply these to see which one of these has the most. So between Kayla and Amanda, 4 times 1 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9. You can see there, Kayla can eliminate Amanda. And then I'll go Kayla and Tammy, going across, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. So clearly your answer there would be Kayla. If you read the question, if you picked Tammy, you read it wrong. You did it like you did it yesterday. But Kayla would be your answer there. And again, if you know your benchmark fractions, it probably save you some time because you don't have to do that cross multiplication, even though it's 1-digit numbers that we probably knew last year. So you're not saving a whole lot of time, but if you're into that kind of thing, that benchmark fraction could help you in the future. All right, number 4, I think. It says, which choice is not equivalent to 30 hundredths? I'm kind of surprised people are missing this one because I think the way I've been showing you is really helpful. It gets it down to like a 50-50 shot as soon as you start. This is what it gave us. Here are the answer choices. So again, before I even looked at those answer choices, I would take the fraction that it gave me and write that as many other ways as I could, because I'm hundredths and tenths. I could write that in tenths by taking the zeros, 3/10. Already I've eliminated an answer choice. That's gone. Okay. I can write that fraction as a decimal. Some people might not have looked very carefully because if you look at D, that looks very similar, but they are different. That's 30 hundredths. My answer choice here has 3 numbers after the decimal, which makes that 30 thousandths. That can't be eliminated. That's not the same thing. But then I could write my other fraction as a decimal, which looks like this, 3/10, and that gets rid of, hey, it's like I said, I got a 50-50 shot right now. Now, 6/20 looks a lot different. But if it gave me a fraction, I can cross multiply fractions. I'll pop 6/20 right here. Again, they're bigger numbers, but when you're multiplying with zeros at the end, you're doing that basic fact and adding the zeros at the end. So here I'm really only doing 6 times 1 and getting 6, but adding those 2 zeros back and getting 600. Same deal here. I'm really only doing 3 times 2, which is 6, but adding this 0 and this 0. And you can see that those two fractions are equivalent, which gets rid of 3 choices, leaves you with your answer. Guys, 30 hundredths is different than 30 thousandths. That would not be equivalent, which would give you the answer of D. So like I said, I'm trying to record these a little bit later so I can actually see some numbers coming in. We had quite a few people who missed that one. I really wish there was a way that when you turned in your Fan 5, I could see the work that you have with it. It would make it so much easier for me to understand, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But that one was kind of surprising. So if you got fractions cross multiply, even if they look different, like those two clearly did, they can still be equivalent. All right, last one. So my favorite question all week, number 5. It says, Isabella is competing in a push-up contest. She completed 12 rounds of 45 push-ups. She is going against Candace, who completed 8 rounds of 60 push-ups, and wants to know who completed more and by how many. So if you're reading a little bit and doing a little bit, you're going to be able to eliminate answer choices pretty quick, because once you figure out who did the most, let's say it's Bella, then you can get rid of C and D. If it was Candace, you can get rid of A and B. Now, to figure out who completed more, you got to do a little bit more work, but we'll get to that in just a second. So 2 people. Mr. Huber loves the table, so he's going to go with it. Yikes. Who do we have? Isabella. Get this off my screen. There we go. And Candace. All right, so 12 rounds of 45 push-ups for Isabella. 45, 45, 45, 45, 45, 45. 12 different times. Let's multiply. So 45 push-ups in each of those 12 rounds. 2 times 5 is 10. 0 stays, 1 goes. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 90. Before I multiply by my tens, I'm going to pop that placeholder in there, get rid of this, and then 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. This is where I would do my addition. Don't have much room, so I'm going to do it over to the side. In my ones place, 0 plus 0 is 0. 9 plus 5 is 14, so 4 stays, 1 goes, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So I know that Isabella did 540. Still can't answer the question yet because I got to figure out Candace's total. She did 8 rounds of 60 each time, so 60 in each of her 8 rounds. And hopefully you're not seeing like, oh, she did 60, she did 45, 45, Isabella had to have done more. She could have, but do the math. All right, because the less rounds, the number of rounds is different too. So 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 6 is 48. Only a 1-digit number. You're done there. So we can answer the first part of the question. Who did more? Clearly it was Isabella. So Candace, her information is now unimportant for us, except for the 480. So we got rid of C and D because we know Isabella did more, but by how many? Well, if Isabella did 540, and if Candace did 480, I'm going to find the difference between the two, so I'm going to subtract. 0 minus 0 gives me 0. 4 minus 8, more on the floor, go next door and get 10 more. That 5 changes to a 4. This 4 is now 14. Now I can subtract. 14 minus 8 gives me 6. 4 minus 4 is 0, which gives me a final answer of Isabella by 60, which would be A. So 2-step word problems. Read a little bit, do a little bit. And the way I've been doing it with tables and pictures, there's so many other options. It's whatever you're comfortable with. But it's crazy to me that, like, I've only had 22 people turn it in so far. But number 5 has been better than number 4, which is really surprising. So I've always told my kids on the EOG, you know, don't miss the easy ones, miss the hard ones. It's really hard to get a 100 on the EOG. So if you're going to miss one, don't miss a number 4, miss a number 5. But just don't try to miss any, honestly. So with your quiz, take your time, read the questions carefully. Again, this is not timed. Go back, double check your questions. Don't feel rushed. Don't try and finish as fast as you can so you just be done with it. Because guys, believe it or not, this stuff really matters to your teachers. Like, Laura, my wife, will look at me all the time, be like, what's wrong? And I'll just be looking at my computer. This stuff matters to us. So, and really, I've said this to my own class, we can tell a lot about you as a person from looking at your scores coming in. Because just individually with my class, I can see who's working. I know who's watching these videos. I know who's taking their time. Just turning something in, that doesn't matter to us. Giving your absolute best effort, that's what's important. So just keep in mind, we talk about this stuff. We care about this stuff. We look at this stuff all day long. So do your best. If you're putting your name on it, give your best effort. Because again, we're looking at this stuff non-stop. Thank you guys for watching. Best of luck. We'll see you next week. Have an awesome, awesome weekend. And my biggest request to you would be on Sunday. It is Mother's Day. You do whatever she asks. You don't complain. You don't roll your eyes. Any mother that you come in contact with, mom, grandmom, aunt, it doesn't matter. Be respectful, be polite, tell them you love them, and just make their day as easy as possible, please. All right, enough out of me. See you guys.